and we are joined by someone who knows a thing or two about playing in D.C., Washington All-Pro cornerback and apparently stud softball player. This I did not know, Josh Norman. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I love
Thank you guys for having me.
Well, you sat down. The first thing you talked about was the humidity, because you and I are the only ones whose hair matters in the humidity. We are bookended by two guys with perfect hair who don't have to worry about that. Let me start by asking you this. What's it like to be surrounded by, the best of the best in the game, knowing you're going to have a good time, but there's also a little bit of a competitive edge? I know that's baseball and it's football, but there has to be some element of it that sort of overlaps.
It is. You have to raise your game. You truly have to raise your game. I think, when you go out with athletes and great people around you, it obviously brings out the competition side of you, and it just feeds the fire to go out and do something great.
Yeah, I was talking in the hotel last night. Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Right? One of your guys there in Carolina helped you emerge as one of the great defensive backs that we have in this game. At this stage of your game, we know you emerged on the scene there in Carolina. Now being one of the most consistent DBs that we see, what are you working on as you prepare for the 2018 season with the Washington Redskins?
Well, Chris, you always got to work on something.
Yes.
I always got to work on something. You don't have all the the know-how and the keys and the tools, but you learn something new every year. And for me, it's always about, everything is about this, but patience. Be a little bit more patient.
Now, you're talking about patience as far as your route recognition, or patience when you're in bump and run? I know DBs always talk about not trying to bail out and get out or backpedal. That type of patience?
That type of patience where you just stand right there.
You better be patient against me, Josh, because I'm going to do something to you if I know that. If I know you're working on your patience, I'm going to test your patience.
It is that, but the thing is, I'm already patient. It's just a little bit even more of the patience, more of the route recognition that you speak about and talk about, because we already homed in that skill. We already fine-tuned that skill. It's just being more of that, being more just, solid in my approach and how I see the game, and let it come to me and not try to chase it,
What's the difference for you in approach, if there is any, from when, and I know you've been in Washington a few years now, but from when you were in Carolina where you blew up, and it's like, oh my God, look at this guy, is one of the best players at his position in the league. And then in Washington, the narrative's different. It's this guy damn well better sure be one of the best players in the league at his position. Does that change your approach? Does that change anything for you personally?
No, I think the outside eyes of the narrative, that changed for sure. But for me, it's still the same. Go out there and do a job that, you get paid to do, and go out and face the best of the best wide receivers day in, day out. And we have them in our division. You got OBJ up there, and then you had Dez in our division. I mean, they brought me in to stop those guys, really, to be honest. And then when I did, it's just now the other people that comes up with it.
And I know we're going to talk about your team and that division, but I know a little bit about your story that I don't know if the audience knows. And so if people don't know about your process post-high school, your brother was on a football team, and you ran sprints like in parking lots or alongside the field. I might be butchering it somewhat, but you were not initially like a D1 scholarship athlete. So can you tell people about your process from high school to college to then making the pros? Because that college part is a great story.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to make this as short as possible if I can, but it's a long story. But I would say this. I first started out in high school. I didn't have any offers, I had a couple Division II, III offers, but it was never my choice to go there. I wanted to go to the University of Georgia, truly. That was my school of choice. I would get all kind of letters. Everybody would get these boxes of letters, but they weren't talking about nothing. You know how that goes. And then I didn't get an offer, so I just sat out. I mean, it wasn't school that I chose. I mean, Division II, like I said, they was offering. I didn't take it. It's not where I wanted to be. Sat out. I went to my brother's school at Coastal Carolina. I stayed on his couch, and what you was talking about earlier at the parking lot, I was doing sprints and drills in the street of the subdivision, timing myself in the 40 and doing everything I could do just to try to curve myself for that 1 year. I was taking classes at Horry Georgetown Technical College.
It's unbelievable.
And then finally, I bridged over into Coastal Carolina that next year And then I ended up walking on to the school. I was working at a mental health technician. I was a mental health technician working at the Lighthouse. So I was still working my job while I was a walk-on student. And I ended up playing after my brother went down. And then that sophomore year, they gave me a full ride. And, you know, I took off from college there. And when I got to the league, you know, I still had that mentality. Like, I had to work for it. I was a 5th-round draft pick. It was like, well, that's not really, you know, sustainable. You don't make, you haven't made the team.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, well, who's this guy, Steve Smith?
Yeah.
Great story.
Me and him got at it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been going on ever since.
All right, let's talk about where you are and where your team is right now. You guys finished 3rd in the NFC East both years that you've been here. You have a new quarterback, though, now coming in. Tell me about the expectations you guys are realistically placing on yourselves as you get ready to start the season.
Well, they're always high. You're in the nation capital. I mean, everything expectations when you're in the win. That Birkenhead. Oh, it's crazy. And in the NFC East, man, boy, we smoking over here, boy, with this division. It is tough. Everything. I mean, when you play the Cowboys, you better not lose. They don't care if you lose all the games, just don't lose to them.
Sure.
And then you play the Giants. That's just like a clash of the Titans almost. And now Philly winning the ring. You know, like baby brothers ain't baby brothers anymore. They like the older dogs. You got to go after them. So it's a division where I feel like you have to get out to an early start. Because you cannot, you know, get at the end of the pack and try to come back and catch views. You'll be gone.
And also, if you're here in Washington, people want to know, you've been through the OTAs and the mini camp. Yeah. We know the story of Kirk Cousins leaving Washington, taking all that guaranteed money from Minnesota. Jay Gruden's been specific as saying that he thought they got better at quarterback with Alex Smith. What have you seen from Alex that would give Redskins fans a sense to get ready for the 2018 regular season?
Well, you know, he's a wily guy. He's a wily veteran. I mean, he's been in the league, what, 10, 11 years now? I mean, the guy has pretty much seen every, you know,
if we could specifically point to one thing, what is one thing you've seen from Alex that you're encouraged about getting ready for the season?
He's cool, dude. Under pressure, he's cool. I think that's the one thing I've seen about him. He is cool, he is calm, he's collective.
Frustrating guy to practice against, I'd imagine, because he ain't throwing you many balls.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's what I mean. Like, he's cool, calm, collective. And he knows what is going on. He's not throwing a ball at you in practice. So, obviously, you try to work on things to be able to, all right, how do you curve that? How do you get better as a defensive back when, you know, the quarterbacks is not really testing you in practice like that? So, you know, I had to look at other ways to try to fine-tune my my skill set. But with a guy like that who obviously is not coming at you in practice, he knows the game before the game he's even played.
Right now, we don't have a guy that you've competed against a lot. Carolina, we know you were a shutdown guy. Some people say, oh, he's playing zone, he's a product. But we who watch football know that Josh can play zone or play man, very, very effective at either one. Dez Bryant right now, you and him had some great battles. Yeah. You have a lot of respect for Dez. Are you shocked that right now we're in the 2nd week of July and Dez Bryant is not employed in the NFL?
Well, a little bit, but I feel like it's his choice as well. I mean, it's pretty much his choice. And, you know, he had offers. He had, from what I've known, I don't know much about anybody else's business, but what's going on with mine. But I've been hearing that he had those opportunities and he just didn't take them. And, you know, that's his choice. I'm sure when that time is right, he'll feel like he'll do it.
So Cris talks a lot about, and I'm not going to get into specific teams because I don't want you to give anyone bulletin board material, but Cris talks a lot about #1 wide receivers and why teams need a true #1 wide receiver as a corner on the other side of it. And you don't have to name names.
Right.
But what does a true #1 wide receiver bring to the table that you have to counteract that more pedestrian or average receivers don't? Like, what are some things that people see the stats and they're like, okay, they're big, strong, fast. But what are some things that when you're covering them, you have to look out for?
Oh, my gosh, everything. Like, it's just taking this into perspective. You have a rookie and a vet. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of different levels, yes.
There's levels to it. And if you got a for sure #1 that can do every route on the route tree and running the same speed, that's a problem. You only have like 4 of those in the league right now. That's a problem.
So when you're approaching those number 1 guys and you're talking about a guy is technically sound and things like that, do you approach it from a different mentality? Because I know there's guys out there, you saw the scouting report and you are going to intimidate them. I've seen you, and you've talked to me about different guys. I don't believe this guy is tough enough. When you have that number 1 guy, or is it a different mentality as you far going at him?
I mean, it's the same mental aspect approach. Just the physicality and the tools and the techniques I use is much different. Like the tools I use is so much different than I use it on a rookie or somebody that's like don't have much knowledge of the game.
Yeah, explain that to me. What tools might you use on a guy like me compared to Nick Wright?
I'm sneaky fast. Coach's son, Jim Rat. I don't know if you know that about me.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm checking you right now at the line. You know?
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
checking you at the line.
You can't let me get going.
I'm give you either a shade left or a shade right on where I'm going to line up. You're going to play a mental game with me. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I'm going to stay up there the line. Maybe I might bail out. Maybe I might come bail back down on top of you and play a zone technique. Or maybe I play a man half shade outside inside technique.
That's a little disrespectful too, Nick. He's telling me I can't run past him. He's already telling me I'm going to be at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's where you're going to be. Like, we're going to be in a dogfight. That's one of the things we're going to be in. But I really want that contest because I want to see, like, what are you going to be able to do to remove her off of what I give you? It's going to be a mental match of chess.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.